All Things Motoring International is owned and brought to you by SA's most trusted online vehicle platform, CHANGECARS. Our name says it all. Whether you're looking to sell, need advice, need finance, or need insurance, CHANGECARS has you covered. Coming up this week on All Things Motoring International, our time at Italian Day comes to an end, and Ernest is back with yet another retro review. This is a show that will remind you of times gone by.
I've gotten my hands on a factory original 318i BMW. Two-door, as you can see, so you know what that means. It's time for another retro review. The year is 1991, and many of us at the time were lusting after the 325i S's of the time. But for the everyman with a little bit of sophistication, he wanted a car with good fuel consumption, and he wanted something that didn't necessarily stand out as much. There was, of course, the 323 or the 320, but both of those were bigger engine. Then there was the 318, the four-cylinder sweet spot. This car is, as the owner Sean refers to it, a time capsule. It's got over 200,000 kilometers on the clock, but it is exactly as it was when it was bought, bar a few small changes. As I mentioned, it's got aftermarket power steering, but we'll talk about that later. The gears are just like they would have been new. The steering wheel is very thin by modern standards, but this is the BMW Motorsport steering wheel of the era. 3-spoke, narrow-rimmed, feels just right. It's not height adjustable, but that's okay. It doesn't need to be. The stalks work perfectly with zero play on them, just like everything else. So when you indicate left and right, soft sounds, unlike these annoying Chinese cars of the current day and age. But so nice and period correct. Let's talk about that dashboard. Every single E30 that you'll ever see will have a cover on the dashboard because the dash is cracked. This is, and I'm not using hyperbole here, one of the first E30s that I've seen with an absolutely pristine dashboard. No cracks, no bubbles, no aftermarket work, and no carpet. The air conditioning has been upgraded to facilitate the new gases, so we're not polluting the environment anymore like we did in the 90s. And what's interesting is the sunroof works perfectly. Now, the sunroof buttons and the window buttons are, for me, a nice little touch because they're not haptic buttons like in the E36 where you just push them down. They are actually buttons that you have to press, that move. Quite an experience compared to anything modern these days. The radio's been upgraded to a modern unit, a Kenwood system. And that sounds cool too. It's very quiet in here. The car drives quietly. And although you can feel that the suspension in the later models of BMW was certainly more advanced, this one has good noise insulation, specifically from the engine. could definitely do a long distance drive with this car. You don't get the same sensation with modern cars. They're just so much heavier and overtired. But this one feels good because it's a lightweight car by any modern measure. The handbrake works perfectly with no side-to-side play. The button works as well, and along with everything else in here, it's as it was when it came from the factory. Just wonderful. But enough driving. Let's talk to the owner and find out some more about the history of this 318i.
Coming up after the break, Ernest sits down with the owner and original technician of a special 3 Series in this week's Retro Review.
What is the problem?
I ordered this medium and it's well done.
Thank you.
No, it's well done.
I know it is. I made it.
Are you looking to sell? Visit Change Cars and click on the Selling tab.
Guys, we have found an incredible specimen over here in the form of Jan. Now, I assume because of the color of Jan's shoes that this is his vehicle. What I cannot assume is that whether Jan can fit in this vehicle. Jan, do you think you could?
I think so. Luckily, it's got a convertible.
So Jan, first questions first. Are you Italian?
I'm not, but I'm married to one.
Ooh. So you're married to an Italian lady. Now, I'm scared for you, but I'm sure there's some perks to the job. Like,
No, there is.
like what?
Good food, good wine, some other good things as well.
If you were a mafia owner,
Yeah.
say like your father-in-law, what car would you use to fit a Jan in?
Depends if they're gonna have to cut me in half. Something smaller would work.
So Jan, you know things about Italians. Italians are stylish. That translates to their fashion. But if you had to verse Italian fashion versus French fashion versus South African farming apparel, what would you say? What's the most stylish? Two-tone?
No, I think Italian, eh? All the way.
This
So-
guy just loves everything Italian.
Yeah, I do.
I've just arrived back from my test drive. Shane and Sean, thanks so much for facilitating everything. The car drove beautifully. But we're here to discuss not just the car, but the story of the car.
The way my dad actually acquired it was interesting because it was a very fancy car back in the day. And he had a Toyota Twin Cam that got stolen. And this car came available. And I remember putting down the 2,000 Rand deposit to hold it because he wasn't convinced. Well, anyway, once he drove it, that was it. And it was his daily driver. It's been in the family for what we now, that's 91, it's 33 years. I inherited the car. For me, it's a timeless classic. And it holds very dear sentiment to me for obvious reasons. I lost both my parents after COVID, so this, ironically, when I got into it one day, there's a leather pouch, I showed it to you. And I opened the pouch and there was my mom and dad's old ID pictures. So it still stays in the car. This car, eventually he stopped taking for 2 reasons. He'd fallen and damaged his shoulder, so he couldn't, as you would know, they came out either with aircon or power steering, not both.
Shane, I know that you work closely together now, but the story starts with Shane many, many years ago.
Yeah. According to the service book or where the history of the car is, it's almost like I did the PDI on the car.
Well, for what exactly is a PDI, for the listeners, for the viewers out there?
The PDI is really the check over on the car prior to the customer taking delivery of the car. So we go through every nut and bolt to ensure that the car's obviously ready for delivery.
We put it together. Shane would have been on the bench and would most likely have had his hand on the car at its pre-delivery service. He was there, he was on the bench. He's a master mechanic or master technician. Yeah. These were special cars when they came out. I've always spoken about this as the 318i shadow line. And Shane pointed out, well, the 325i shadow line, what was the
Yeah, the 325i shadow lines, the shadow line really came from the chrome beading, the gutter beadings on the car, and the breast beadings on the car, they were all black. So that's where the shadow comes from.
Oh, I
black.
see, I see.
Yes, but this is similar to the 325 shadow line, which was a two-door, the BBS mags, the two-door, the boot fin at the back, all those
Black
things.
black.
It's a black on black, a three-spoke steering wheel. It's a unique car. They're not very popular. You can hardly find a two-door 318i in a type of style that this one has.
The car is totally original. Nothing on here other than the radio, which I changed because I wanted Bluetooth. So I would say that quietly. You said something interesting because you drive so many cars and you've modified cars and that's kind of what you're doing. You're saying there's something unique about total originality.
Exactly. I was saying it on my drive. I'm restoring a BMW now. But of the 4 clips at the bottom of the door, if one clip is broken, you notice it and it ekes on you. Whereas this one over here, those 4 clips have been in there forever. They've never been taken out, they've never been put back in. And there's a sense of that in the car where everything is still tight.
And also, being a two-door, they only really, they were my mom and dad, so the back of the car is still brand new. The leather is spotless.
Shane, then there was the power steering upgrade. BMW at the time charged 30,000 Rand for that upgrade.
That and more.
That and more. So I always worked on the car as such, and Insure told me that his father had a power arm and he needed a power steering. Can we make something work for him? We managed to speak to people, power steering people, and they told us how we go about it. We sourced the parts. I'm taking a power steering kit of a BMW 323. And then fitting it to the vehicle, the rack, the pipe.
And the thing about doing something like that at BMW, this is an aftermarket facility here. You could probably do that for someone quite easily, but to sign it off as BMW, that's a big deal.
Yeah, no, we treated it as such because we were fitting parts that belong to a BMW,
For me, it's a beautiful car. It's a classic car in my opinion. Beautiful to drive. And as Shane says, it's something that I'm proud of owning. So, yeah.
Certainly a piece of history when it comes to South African car culture, certainly a piece of history when it comes to my experiences with cars, and certainly a piece of history when it comes to the O'Connell family.
To Sean and the team at Mischief Motorsport, we at All Things Motoring International value you. Your business and your contribution to our show and the motoring landscape of South Africa. Thank you. Coming up after the break, our time at Italian Day comes to an end with the boys exploring even more Italian metal. Did you know? The BMW Group's first plant outside Germany opened in South Africa in 1973. Over the next 35 years, more than 1 million BMW 3 Series were produced at the site in Roslyn, to the north of Johannesburg. At the Roslyn plant, BMW created the BMW 530 MLE in 1976, which is seen as one of the early steps of BMW motorsport. The racing version of the BMW 530 MLE won the Star Modified Racing Series 3 times in a row and went on to become the world's most successful 5 Series on the track. After a substantial investment, the Roslyn plant was converted to produce the new BMW X3 in 2018. South Africa plays a special role in the motorsport history of BMW. Nelson Piquet won the World Championship title in the final Formula One race of the 1983 season at Kyalami. That was the first Formula One title for BMW and the first for a car with a turbo engine. Looking for finance and insurance? Visit ChangeCARS and click on the Financial Products tab.
The year is 1973 and the host of All Things Motoring is born. Thank you. But 1973 was not all about me. It was about cars. Behind us is something magnificent. When I look at it, it looks like a magnificently, immaculately restored 1973 Alfa GTV 2000. It is a 1973 Alfa GTV 2000, but it's not immaculately restored. It's completely original.
Totally
Frank, tell us
original.
about this beauty.
Totally original. I was chasing this car for 15 years. I'm the second owner. The original owner refused to sell the car because he said he was leaving it for his son. So I gave up, and then eventually after a couple of years he phoned me out of the blue and he says, "You're still interested in the car?" I said, "Yes." And why? He says, "No, my son's not interested anymore." Oh yeah, I said, "Definitely." And he owns a block of flats in Yeovil, and he parked it in the basement and just left it.
As far as you're concerned, he raised his son right, because this should come to a good home.
Exactly.
So now we're talking roughly 2015. I looked at the license disc. I saw you got it in 2015. Is that correct?
Correct, 2015.
9 years must have flown by. But a car like this to own, tell us about that.
It's a passion. Look, I've owned a lot of juniors, I must be honest, and I've had 4 2-liters. 3 of them are this color, and this is the best of the lot. I did buy another 2-liter, totally original and restored from a deceased estate, but some lady came to me and was mad about the car, and I sold it. And I know, you know, you get the gut feeling when you buy a car, and I love these cars. And the passion, when I got this, I said, there's no ways I'm selling it, I'm keeping it. So I've been working on it, you know, just to get everything mechanically 100%.
But now what for me is standout, you look at this car, as I said, it looks immaculately restored. The paintwork is still shiny and fresh. The odd, and I say odd little blemish, that would be acceptable on a 2022 car, let alone a car that's 51 years old. How is it possible that a car like this, which is essentially prone to rust, is not rusted at all? It is immaculate. What goes into keeping a car in this condition?
Well, I was very fortunate because the guy, he only took it home every now and then. He lived in Glen Hazel, so he didn't have enough parking for the car. He put a car cover over it on the weekends when he took it home. And when the wind blows, it chafes the edges. So I got a bit of chafing there, but he kept it indoors all the time, and that makes a big difference. And also being up here at the in Johannesburg, don't have rust.
Of course, of course. Now, I'm the proud owner of a 2007 Alfa GTV 3.2 Q4, magnificent car. Next year is 10 years. Frank, you strike me as the kind of guy that's going to do the right thing. Can we shake on it right now? Next year it's mine?
Yes, definitely.
Love it.
Definitely.
Thank you for chatting
No,
to us.
it's a pleasure.
And may
Anytime.
you go from strength to strength with this beauty.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Jeremy, when we came into the facility today, there were Lamborghinis, Ferraris driving past us. And legitimately, when this car came past, Mike and I just stopped, went off on a tangent and started talking about this car.
Wow.
Why does this car have that effect on people, do you think?
Well, it's one of the fewer affordable Italian sports cars that you can get. Rear-wheel drive, 6-speed, limited slip diff. So if you're going to do some stuff in the twisties, this is your baby.
Yeah, and twisties is what you were talking about earlier on. You don't drive this car often, the car kind of lives in the garage, but when the day comes...
Absolutely. I suppose it's more of a weekend car. Put the top down Saturday, Sunday, go out to Arties for a drive, catch some sun rays, and yeah, enjoy the most of it.
So let's talk about the styling. You mentioned that there are styling cues on here that are unique. What are those?
Actually, yeah, if you have a look at it, so these bubbles actually come off the original 124 that Fiat built many years back. So it's very much a heritage car. Short.
I like how they separated the panels here as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it shares sort of a cousin with the MX-5, but we believe the Abarth's much better, a lot more ponies under the hood, and that Italian
the best
styling.
of both, some might say.
Absolutely. You know, Japanese engineering with some Italian style and flair, and you got yourself a good mix.
Oh, Italian style and flair, that's exactly why we're here today. And it's not just about exotic cars. This will turn heads too. In its era, it was known as the fastest car in the world, point to point. Which meant that it dominated in the rally scene. Of course, I'm talking about the Lancia Delta Integrale. And I think it's time to hand it over to the voice in the sky.
The first generation Lancia Delta dominated the World Rally Championship during the late 80s and early 90s. The homologation requirements of Group A meant marketing road-going versions of these competition cars to the public. A replacement for the Group B era S4 was introduced for the 1987 World Rally Championship season and dominated the World Rally Championship. It scored an unbelievable 46 WRC victories overall and won the Constructors' Championship a record 6 times in a row from 1987 to 1992, making the Lancia Delta Integrale one of the most successful cars in rally history. And yes, Ernest, at the time it was widely regarded as the fastest car in the world point to point.
The saying goes, some things get better with age. That's what my girlfriend says to me. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. Next to me, the Ferrari 308 GTS is definitely one that everybody will agree to the story. All Things Motoring, we are super proud to be here. We look forward to bringing the show for many more seasons. Ernest, Temba and myself, we appreciate the support. The end of another day. In fact, I'm going to rephrase that. The end of another special day. Why do I say special? First time that all three of us were together. What an incredible day. Italian day. Temba, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, we say we're about the people. Today we've seen an incredible culture, people, food, and of course these exquisite cars.
What more can you ask for? Ernest, what can you add to that?
For me, this was kind of not what I was expecting. I thought it would be a small car park somewhere in Pretoria with a couple of Ferraris and Lamborghinis and Alfas.
Not a 25 billion rand gathering of exotic equipment.
Exactly. This is a collectible feast for the eyes, but not just that, it's the people. I've never seen so many Italian people in one location either. And then of course the food, the markets are busy.
Do you think it was the fact that we were at the Italian club that had something to do with it?
I think it might be something to do with that. What I'm trying to say is that it's not what I expected. In fact, it's exceeded my expectations.
Absolutely.
Right, well there we go. That brings us to the end of today and the end of my first Italian day. So guys, thank you for having me on the show. Another good one. I'll see you guys at the next one for All Things Motoring. But for now, I'm gonna go stand somewhere a little more affordable. This is starting to, it's hurting my heart.
Here is the screen top tip of the week. Always make sure you can verify a vehicle's history before putting pen to paper. Before you buy a second-hand car, screen it. It's what smart people do. Coming up next week on All Things Motoring International, Mike explores the world of the Dodge Ram and double cab buckies. And Ernest visits an auto museum in Cape Town. This is a show full of surprises. If you enjoyed our retro review and have something special from the 70s, 80s or 90s, Mike and Ernest would be honored to showcase your retro ride on Retro Review. Get in touch via the All Things Motoring website. We would love to hear from you.
So you'll notice the windscreen wipers are going, but no water. We respect the proud owners of these cars. We don't mess them up.
The old thumbs up from Ethan as a gentleman.
So Jan, first questions first. Are you Italian?
I'm not, but I'm married to one.
Ooh. Okay.
You know, all those things, it's a black on black, the three-spoke steering wheel.
That wasn't me.
I just
Guys, what a pleasure to work with you. What a pleasure for you to work with me. That's what I meant to say. I'm going to take that one again.
I'm sure there's some perks to the job. Like,
No, there is.
like what?
Good food, good wine, some other good things as well.
But for now, I'm gonna go stand somewhere a little more affordable. This is starting to, it's hurting my heart.
You are so excited to get that brand new vehicle, but you're looking for a specific model and specific color, only to be told sorry, there are none available. Change Cars, SA's most trusted online platform, will find exactly what you need, from A to B and everything in between. Change Cars, because that's what you want to do, and it's who we are. All Things Motoring International was brought to you by SA's most trusted online vehicle platform, Change Cars. Our name says it all. There is no safer online vehicle platform. That's not an opinion, that's a fact.